Okay, amazing. So before we get started with the session, that's just a little bit about you. So we got to understand how or what your experience is and why exactly you want to learn about GenAI, right? Before I start, I just want to quickly introduce you about Simplilearn. Now, Simplilearn is the world's #1 online bootcamp, and we transform lives by empowering people with digital skills across various domains. So, over a span of more than 14 years, we've touched more than 5 million careers, more than across from people across 150 countries, right? So, we've recently also launched our GenAI programs, and you will learn about them just in a bit. I will introduce you to our speakers right now. Nagendra carries more than 30 years of experience in the tech domain, and he is passionate about GenAI design thinking, and he's also a digital transformation and agile coach. He's conducted more than 1,000 workshops in his span of 30 years, and I'm sure he's going to be adding a lot of value and answering a lot of your questions about GenAI. So, Nagendra, I would love you to introduce you to the learners here.
Sure. Thank you very much, Aparna, and thank you for that kind introduction. I hope I'm audible and visible clearly. Awesome. Hi, folks from across the globe. Very excited to be amidst you today. As Aparna said, my name is Nagendra Nyamgondulu. I go by Nagin or Nagendra. And while I've been in the technology industry all my career, I think the discussion today is really not limited to the technology industry, right? We're going to, this is a discussion that's very exciting for any industry or any domain you're from, even if you're a student or a new graduate at this time. I spent a large part of my career at IBM, about 16 years, both in the US and in India. And I remember more than a decade back when artificial intelligence was a new concept, a new paradigm being talked about. And IBM Watson, one of the early AI technologies, actually kind of became live on TV on a game show called Jeopardy. Some of you might remember seeing that. If you have not, look it up on YouTube. It's a very interesting video. From there, I think artificial intelligence has evolved leaps and bounds. And generative AI is probably the new big thing, right? And I think it's something that's going to transform the world, the way we work. So very happy to be amidst all of you here, and look forward to a very engaging conversation. Thank you, Aparna.
Thank you, Nagendra, for that amazing introduction. Now we have Gaurav, who is the VP of Product and Analytics at Simplilearn, and he is passionate about data-driven decisions. So he's an expert in product-led growth. He's led analytics teams across his different stints at Jubilant Foodworks, Wheels Eye, Absolute Data Analytics. So he carries immense expertise in analytics, and he particularly brings this perspective about how GenAI can be leveraged in analytics and also in the other domains. So I'm really excited to have you, Gaurav. Just a few words about you to our learners.
Hey, thanks, Aparna. So first, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who have joined from different parts of the world. So I am Gaurav, and I'm a data professional. So I think all my career I have, I had the luck or privilege to start my career in data analytics, and I've seen this industry evolving over the years. How data science, then AI, now Gen AI is transforming the way analysts work, or not just analysts, as Nagendra also mentioned. How each and every role today is getting transformed with generative AI. So I have had the privilege to see this, at least in the last 15 years. So looking forward to share that experience with all of you. And also, I want to take this opportunity to introduce you to what we do in Simplilearn. So especially in the field of AI and generative AI, over the last 2 years, we have worked extensively to create lot of outcome driven programs for different personas of learners. You can be a technical person in a IT domain, already working on coding, already working on data, looking to leverage generative AI or become a AI engineer. So for such kind of folks, we have a program in applied Gen AI specialization. Then for people coming from non-technical background but wants to leverage AI in their current roles wants to become more productive, build solutions without the need to write actual coding. We have a no code AI and machine learning program. And then for I see that there are a lot of senior folks joining, coming from, who are entrepreneurs, who are coming from carrying a lot of experience. So they want to leverage Gen AI in their businesses, in the way they can make their teams efficient, their organization sufficient. For them, we have a non-technical program which is Generative AI for Business Transformation, and this is just few programs out of a very extensive portfolio that Simplilearn has. So there are programs across data domain, AI domain, data science domain, and the coding, software, cloud, different domains. So you can go and explore those programs. But today, for this discussion, we will try to focus more on how generative AI is transforming the job roles, and how for individuals they can leverage these programs to upskill and to lead in this journey.
Yeah, correct. That's correct. So it's just limitless. I mean, the possibilities of Gen AI are limitless. I'm sure most of you here have used Gen AI by now. I mean, you can let me know a yes or a no on the chat box. Uh, Even I have used Gen AI for creating content. It automates a lot of redundant processes to us. It also helps in boosting productivity because it saves a lot of our time. Sometimes it helps as a creative assistant to a lot of us, right? It helps us solve problems creatively. It just gives a whole new perspective about how we can approach different things, right? So yes, a lot of these questions are going to be answered. Unfortunately, I'm not able to take specific names, but yes, so yes, all of you do agree that Gen AI has transformed the way we work, and now it's important than ever to upskill, to learn about Gen AI's possibilities, whether you are from a technical background or not, right? So this session is relevant to anyone. You can be from any background. People are asking me whether, I don't have a tech background, will this be relevant? So yes, it is relevant. In fact, we all have a little bit to take away from this session, right? So my first question to our experts here is, what new skills do you think learners should develop to stay relevant in Gen AI? Because I think a lot of them have that question. What should I exactly be learning in the era of Gen AI? So if one of you could go first.
Okay, Gaurav, as I think we discussed, maybe you can get started, and then I'll follow your lead.
Sure. So I think in terms of skill set, so Gen AI is for everyone. So one thing I want to start the discussion with, that if people keep asking this question, can I leverage Gen AI? Will it help me improve what I do, and how can I become more productive? The answer is yes. I will not say 100%, but yeah, definitely I think 99%. There are so tremendous use cases that can help most of the professions, most of the people solve or do things more efficiently. And when I and I can take examples. So be it so the tech professionals, obviously, be you be a coder or a data professional, definitely there are ways you can leverage AI. And most of the people in the technical domain are kind of already doing it. But if I talk about non-technical domains, so domains like medical, finance, hospitality, retail, so these domains are also heavily penetrated by the evolution of AI. And so many roles are getting transformed. People are learning different skills to analyze data, to understand patterns, to automate their repetitive work. So in terms of specific skill set, I think we'll cover that in detail. But how can I leverage Gen AI? So and when I say Gen AI, there are different tools available in the market. A basic know-how, understanding of these tools, how these tools can be leveraged, I think that's essential for everyone who have joined today to know and start exploring it. Nagin, definitely, I would want you to share more thoughts here.
Absolutely. Wonderful thoughts, Gaurav, and thank you for that. Thank you for getting us started. So I'll kind of build on what Gaurav said, right? If I look back at my decades of experience in the technology industry and overall the history of how humanity has evolved in the realm of technology, there have been a few epochal moments. I think all of you will agree that probably the most epochal moment was the internet, right? The way the internet came about. Initially, there were a few people saying that, "Hey, this is going to change the world," but the rest of us believed it only when we started seeing the power of the internet. Similarly, I think the second epochal moment was the smartphone, the mobile phone with the ability to compute, not just to help you talk and receive messages, but the ability to compute. I think it has absolutely changed the way we work in the real world. And I believe generative AI is a third such epochal moment, right? And I think Gaurav said very nicely that it's more about learning how to leverage Gen AI. So I've been associated with Simplilearn as a facilitator, as part of their faculty for a few years. And I can tell you that the current batch of generative AI sessions that I am handling, the focus is less on technology or what's the magic or the secret sauce behind Gen AI. Although for those of you interested, you're welcome to learn that as well. But exactly as Gaurav pointed out, it's more about what do you do today and how can you leverage Gen AI in that world of yours, right? So for instance, we talk about how you can use Gen AI to automate your business processes. We talk about how Gen AI can be used for sales and marketing, for software engineering, for product research. So there, I think the possibilities are limitless. So the good news for all of you is it's not a skill that we need to kind of button down and learn. It's more about how do you start leveraging this new, very powerful technology. So the analogy I'll draw is when we all started using smartphones. I know many of you were born with a smartphone. I'm talking to a slightly older generation. Did we need to think of the smartphone as a skill, or did we need to think of the smartphone as how can we leverage this for our everyday life, for our everyday work, right? So from that perspective, we will certainly talk about some skills. There is an amount of structured learning we can do to understand and perfect how we can interact with this very powerful technology called generative AI. How can we get the best results from it? But beyond that, it's more about exploring the possibilities of how can I leverage this for my work, my domain, my realities, right? So that's what it boils down to, and I hope that will become more apparent as we get further down into our discussions today.
Right, right. Amazing insights on how we should actually consider Gen AI as a counterpart or someone who's an assistant rather than, a skill per se. Just to remind the audience on YouTube, you may leave your questions on the live chat on YouTube, and people on Zoom, please leave your questions on the Q&A box. It's just easier to answer. And yes, we will address all these questions towards the end. Please don't worry if we don't address your name while the speakers are speaking, right? So just that's just a quick reminder. And also this session is being recorded. So whoever is attending, this session on Zoom, you will receive a recording link and a certificate. So you will have these options to give your name towards the end of the session, right? Someone asked me that, so I just thought I will address that. Okay. So the next question to our speakers is about the job availability. A lot of youngsters have this question as to whether Gen AI is going to make enough jobs available. If they're just starting out, they have this apprehension that Gen AI may impact job availability for them. Is that true, or if not, what is the possible explanation for that?
Sure. I can share my thoughts on that, and then I will request Gaurav to add to that as well. Is that okay, Gaurav?
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
Gen AI
Okay,
is going to
so
make
I think
enough jobs
this is a question
available.
that
If
kind
they're
of
just
keeps
starting out,
circling
they
every
have this
time there is a
apprehension
new
that
paradigm in
Gen AI.
technology that will allegedly has the power to replace human beings and so on, right? And there's a lot of discussion around automation as well, even before generative AI became a phenomenon. So the couple of thoughts I have on this. The first one I want to share is that I think every advancement in technology has always led to human effort stepping up the value chain. So the first good news is that I don't believe, nor have I seen any evidence that any new technology, including this very powerful generative AI, is necessarily going to take away jobs if that is a concern. think what it does is it helps those who are currently in a role which generative AI can do equally well or better, gives them an opportunity to step up into more value-added roles, right? So that's the first thing I want to talk about. But the second part, the other side of the same coin, if you ask me, is that absolutely true that any skill, any role with the generative AI flavor of competency added to it will certainly become more popular in the jobs market. So if the question is, if I learn generative AI, will this lead to new career opportunities for me? If I become proficient or an expert at with generative AI, will it lead to more job opportunities? And the answer is absolutely yes, because I believe if you look at any role today, right, I'll just randomly quote a few examples. A financial analyst, a software engineer, a quality analyst, a business analyst, a teacher, a doctor, any or all of these roles. And you can imagine, right? I just quoted a short list here. If you add a plus to that, saying plus generative AI skills, I think that's going to be super valuable. We'll get to a point where I believe that is an absolute necessity. And from that perspective, absolutely very good skill to have. But the other side of the coin is I don't believe it will necessarily replace or eliminate any jobs. It will become a part of our job. It will become a very integral part of our job and allow humans to step up in the value chain. One quick example that always comes to mind is, let's assume that there's a bank and there are loan applications coming in, and there are a couple of loan officers who go through these applications today by eyeballing it themselves and making a first cut decision on whether we should accept, whether we should move this loan application down the acceptance chain or reject it for some reasons. If generative AI can be trained to do this for us, then it doesn't necessarily take away those loan officers and say, you're out, sorry, but I believe it will allow them to step up in the value chain. What happens after the first level of approval is done? What do we need to do then, which requires a human touch, right? So that's what I have observed over the decades of our new technology coming in, and what I believe to be true for generative AI as well. But Gaurav, would love to hear your thoughts.
To automate them so that there is less dependency on human, there is a faster completion cycles, so that will happen. But at the same time, with this new technology, there will be so many new roles that will come up in the value chain, which will allow working professionals or students to get to those roles and doing a more exciting or a more meaningful work. So for people who are not looking to upscale, who are not ready to learn, relearn, definitely I see there is a risk, of getting replaced with AI. But people who are ready to leverage these technologies, I think there will be enough and more opportunities to grow and grow fast.
Yes, amazing insight. So I think people on YouTube already have asked us this question as to whether Gen AI is going to replace a lot of jobs. So I mean, I hope this question is answered, which was also my follow-on question as to whether Gen AI is going to replace jobs. So there is your answer. If you don't upskill, it's easier to get replaced than when you are upskilled. So you will be considered for a better role, better position. You will be considered even better than someone who is not upskilled in Gen AI, right? So my next question to our
So,
experts.
Aparna, I just want to add one thought. And when we
Yes,
were
please.
chatting again the last time, you mentioned that if you are not moving forward and you are moving backward, and it is
Yeah.
so true in today's age that if you are not learning new skills, if you are not keeping yourself up to date, then you are moving backward. There are no longer safe jobs. So there were time when lot of people think that this is the work that I do and only I do, so my job is safe. Now that phenomena is no longer there. So any job can be replaced if people are not leveraging the technologies, if people are not increasing or improving their productivities. So definitely I think I was reading somewhere that it's not AI that will replace jobs. It's people, with knowledge of AI who can leverage AI. They will definitely replace jobs of people who don't leverage AI.
That's amazing insights actually. Now, my next question actually was What are some changes that you see across industries? I mean, GenAI has impacted a lot of industries, a lot of our jobs. Can you give examples, specific examples of where these changes have happened or which industries have been influenced the most?
Sure. Gaurav, let me know if you'd like me to get
Yeah,
started or
please
would
go
you
ahead.
like. Okay. So I think the first thing that I would like to mention is as I look at the landscape of adoption of generative AI today, I see that it's not limited to any one specific domain or industry. And a lot of it is about experimentation, right? I think organizations, leadership across organizations are very excited at the possibilities that this technology offers. So the first observation I would like to share is that regardless of whether it is in retail, healthcare, pharma, manufacturing, software engineering, and think of any domain, I've pretty much work with the whole spectrum of customers and businesses across the globe. And all of them uniformly are in a stage where the excitement levels are very high. And there's a lot of experimenting, proof of concepts going on within all these industries and organizations, right? But having answered that, let me also dive a little deeper in. I'll start with the industry that I'm most familiar with, that's very close to my heart, which is the technology and the technology services industry. So, how is GenAI being adopted there? I think if I look at a software engineer today, where organizations have formed some policies and guidelines on, hey, you can use generative AI. Not all of them are quite there yet. One of the easy things that I'm seeing happening, very visible things that I'm seeing happening, is something called a code assistant, where software engineers who are in the middle of writing code to achieve a particular business objective, to design and build out a particular product or roll out a particular service, often have to write code that is a standard part of some operation that they're trying to do, not necessarily a big part of the business logic. And when they need to do that, using these code assistants, saying, "Hey, can you write me a snippet of code that does this for me, takes these two inputs and returns this to me," what would normally take them perhaps a half a day or three hours, or a couple of hours at least, can now get done in less than a minute, right? Because these generative AI tools, among many other things that it does, can generate that snippet of code out. It's more about you can plug it right in today. Of course, and given how new the technology is, most organizations prefer to have some quality checks and balances to make sure that the code is legitimate and it can be used for what we're looking to do. But this is one big thing that I'm seeing in quite a few technology industries, technology companies, right? Whether it is Microsoft Copilots, whether it is the Code Whisperer from Amazon, and many other such code assistants are available. So that's one of the most visible things to me. But at the same time, I'm also seeing a lot of other industries taking up things that they can do with generative AI. I keep saying this, that technology industries, over my experience, companies, right? When business analytics, data analytics started becoming more mature over the last, say, couple of decades, one of the industries that took it up really, really well and harnessed it to its hilt was the retail industry. So if you look at the retail industry and their maniacal focus on analytics and using data to make business decisions, they are now super excited about what generative AI can do for them, right? What a typical process of ingesting data, analyzing it, and coming out with insights can be a multi-week effort or sometimes multi-month effort, can now get done in less than half a day if we are using the right tools and we have the objectives clear in our mind. So this is another thing that I have begun to observe, where exploring data and getting insights out of it is becoming very, very easy and very can be done in very little time. And retail industry is one example that comes to mind, but I'm sure there are others that are jumping into this as well. But I'll pause there and also request Gaurav to add his thoughts.
No, so I completely agree, and again that it is not limited to one industry, one domain, one field. It is it is impacting all the domains. Every industry is today experimenting it, finding different use cases that they can solve with AI, Gen AI. But there are couple of industries which are first movers, I would say, where the impact is more visible, where the penetration of Gen AI is higher than other industries. And there I feel that any industry which has lot of content creation, content generation being done manually by people. So there I think there is lot of automation that is happening today. Similarly, fields like customer support, customer care, there lot of automation. So for example, today large part of the large retail companies or e-commerce companies, their chat systems or their first level support is automated. So so these are the industries that you earlier used to require a very large workforce, because the volume that they cater to, the masses that they cater to. So these use cases are the first use cases which are getting automated. And so similarly, and second spectrum is use cases which are very very complex, or which requires a very large amount of data to analyze. So be it finance, be it healthcare data, where you have to deep dive into a very complex or large amount of data to find patterns, to detect frauds. These are also the use cases where generative AI is kind of early adapter, and being leveraged to automate a lot of that work. But
Fantastic.
having said that, I think most industries are still at a very nascent stage in exploiting or exploring generative AI. And in times to come, I think the leveraging generative AI for day to day work will become mainstream, and we will see lot many use cases, lot many new models coming and solving these use cases.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gaurav. I just had one quick follow-up thought I want to add that just came to me, Pranay, if you will allow me. I've actually seen a couple of very large businesses. I can't name them because I want to protect their privacy. But what they've done is a lot of the technology frameworks available in this space today. For instance, your ChatGPT, right, play in the open source space. So I've actually seen organizations adopt this and make it a part of their private network. So I've actually seen organizations that bring in a ChatGPT and make it their own XYZ GPT and train it within their business domain models. For example, they provide documents around what their company is about, what their organization structure is, what kind of policies they have, what kind of sales numbers they have, whatever it is that they think is relevant to to roll out such a tool to all their employees. So, although absolutely agree with what Gaurav said, that a lot of organizations are kind of in the nascent stage and exploring, I have actually seen a couple of them who have probably leapfrogged the others in terms of creating their own private GPT within their organization that's private to only their employees, and train these frameworks on their own organization and domain knowledge, so that their employees can use it as a ready reckoner, somebody they can talk to almost and understand their policies better, or use it for analytics, get some data out of it for decision making. So that was very impressive when I saw that, because I didn't think, to be honest, that any organization is that far ahead. But I actually saw a couple of examples of this in the last 3 months, and I was blown away. So I thought I should mention that.
And again, very fair point, and it is not that difficult also. So I am seeing in my own organization there are different teams which are leveraging the GPT-4 and building custom GPTs on top of it. And
Absolutely.
anybody within a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, is able to create it. So this Chat GPT-4, allows you to create your custom GPTs, to give input to the model, to train the model on your own data and solve your specific use cases. So for folks who have not tried it, maybe 3.5 does not support it, but anybody who is using the enterprise version or the paid version of GPT-4 can build their own GPTs today.
Excellent point.
Right. Okay, that's actually very interesting that organizations themselves have taken the initiative to leverage and build their own GPTs. So, just a quick question on that. So, is there a risk of bias because they're using a certain type of data, or they're just making a certain model out of it? Is there a risk of bias because of this, because of building these own GPTs, or just using Gen AI in general?
So I'll try to share my thoughts on this. See, any model, and for that matter, anything that we automate depends on what the input that we have feed into that system. So if the input is biased, then definitely there is a chance of bias, from the output that we get from the model. So as we say that garbage in, garbage out. So it holds true for the LLMs, that we see today. And but over time, these models, these tools are also getting mature. I'll give one small example. When uh, chat gpt 3.5 came in late 22, we lot of people find lot of errors, lot of biases, while getting answers. And that point of time, that model was trained on around 175 billion parameters. Within just 6 months, OpenAI launched GPT 4.0, which was trained on 10 trillion parameters. So there is a huge difference in terms of the kind of input, or the level of data that has gone in training these models. And they have put lot of safeguard mechanisms on top of it. So with time, technology is also evolving, and that's when it is very very critical for humans to have a oversight on what they are getting as output from these models. So you cannot blindly trust these models. Definitely there's an improvement. There are a lot of tools available in the market that will help you check for bias, that will help you put guardrails into the system. You can customize these models to put these guardrails. But at the end, all these models will require some human oversight to make sure those biases don't impact their business.
Absolutely. I love what you said there, Gaurav. Garbage in, garbage out, right? So the weakest link with all of these technologies is the human element, right? The human element is that all this is basically possible because we are feeding data to these technology frameworks. And when we do this, there is bound to be some kind of natural human biases that creep in. So I remember there was this case study I was reading about a decade back when AI was still relatively new. There's this very large online organization. I won't name them, although this is a public case study. I'm sure many of you may have read about it. But this is very large online portal that actually tried to use AI for their staffing and talent acquisition. And when doing that, they found that over the next few months, the that particular tool actually had a bias against hiring women candidates, which was obviously a very unfair bias. And as soon as they realized, credit to them, they pulled it out. But I'm using this as an example to illustrate that the kind of data we feed, the kind of models we train these technology paradigms on, will also dictate what kind of biases creep in. But the good news is that organizations, technologists behind all this are very keenly aware of it. And there's a lot of work being done to make sure that the data is well curated. The biases are eliminated to to the maximum possible extent. I think it's work in progress. The other aspect of it is accuracy, right? Bias is one thing, but I think it's an incomplete discussion without talking about the accuracy of it. As in, biases apart, when we ask these generative AI tools to give us some data, create some content for us, give us some kind of an artifact, can we trust it? Do we believe it's accurate and proceed? I would say we are still in that position, and Gaurav very nicely explained how there was a marked improvement from ChatGPT 3.5 to 4.0. I think we are still in that stage where it is rapidly evolving, but we still need to have those checks and balances in place, those quality assurance checks in place to make sure that the data, the output we are receiving from these technology tools match what we expect, and there's accuracy and no bias in it. So that kind of caution and safety nets still need to be around.
I just want to give one example, and it's a very funny example that the Chat GPT 3.5 came in November 2022, but up till and after that Chat GPT 4 came and all, but up till 15th July 2024, if anybody would have asked GPT that which number is larger between 9.11 and 9.9, the Chat GPT gave the answer as 9.11. It's on 16th July to 2024 when they fixed this. Because the model works from left to right, and after decimal it checked that 11 is greater than 9. So it said that 9.11 is greater than 9.9, which they have eventually fixed now. But these kind of issues can come, and that's when it is very critical to have oversight on the kind of outcomes that we generate from these models.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's correct. Correct. Just a quick, we've got very interesting questions on the chat. Some of you are asking relevant questions to what is being discussed. Just a quick request is please add it in the Q&A box, and we will address any questions that you have, whether it's about the programs or whether it's about the discussion. If you add it on the chat box, it may get skipped. So just a reminder, also for people on YouTube, make sure you are interacting on the live chat. Yes, we're looking at your questions, and they will be answered towards the end. But just one last question before we move ahead to the much awaited Q&A. I think a lot of curious questions, curious minds here. One last question is, how can we best collaborate with AI rather than thinking of it as a competitor? That's also a question that most of our learners have.
Certainly. I can get started on that and perhaps request Gaurav to add to that. I think in today's day and age, where especially in the last couple of decades, where the speed at which, the rate at which things are changing, technology is evolving, customer expectations are changing, market demand is dynamic. One thing that's very, very, very common as a skill that people need to have is what we call as a growth mindset, right? As a growth mindset. And with this growth mindset comes the ability to look at change as an opportunity and not a threat. So to kind of answer your question, Aparna, there, that it's very important to look at all of these as possibilities as an opportunity and not as threats. And therefore, collaborating with AI, I would even go to the extent of saying that leveraging and harnessing AI to make your lives easier, to make your jobs easier, and to deliver better value, whatever it is that we all do, right? Whatever role we all play, ultimately we are looking to deliver value to somebody, some customer somewhere, some business somewhere. And if we have a very powerful tool that can sit as a partner in our room and help us deliver that value better and faster, why wouldn't we leverage it, right? So absolutely, very, very nice thought there in terms of how to collaborate with AI, especially in the context of generative AI. Now, AI itself is a very vast field, so I won't give a very generic answer for AI because I think then I'll need to kind of get into the details a bit and split hairs there. But I'll give an answer more relevant to generative AI. As I talk to many leaders, as I'm helping many leaders use generative AI for some of the work that they do, one pattern is very clearly coming out is that everybody needs to look at generative AI as a partner in the room, somebody who you can sound your ideas off, somebody who you can look to create some quick artifacts for you, somebody who can validate some of the work that you're doing, somebody who can help you expedite some of the repetitive tasks that you have as a part of your work. So that comes in very, very handy. And the productivity boost and the ability to spend more time on core value-added work is so much phenomenal that I completely agree with what Gaurav said just a couple of minutes back, that we are not very far from the day where every role, every industry, every job will require to use generative AI as a partner in the room. So partner in the room is my slogan around generative AI and collaborating with it. But Gaurav, over to you for your thoughts.
Yeah, I agree. So I feel that Gen AI or these tools can be our personal assistants. They can be our personal mentors, teachers. They can be our personal note takers. And in fact, right now, if you use the Google, you can just voice whatever you want to keep as note. Google can take your notes. WhatsApp now can take your notes. So I think there are lot of ways we can leverage AI. And for those who have not started exploring, I would request them just to go on use any tool. You can just go and use ChatGPT 4.0. It is free. You can use Llama 1 3.1. You can use Cloud. I'll just give you an example. So there's a site, there's a platform called Hugging Face. So if you go on Hugging Face today, there are close to 1 million models of different sizes, of different use cases, which you can just go and leverage. So a lot of them are free. There are paid, models, free models based. These models are categorized based on different use cases. So somebody wants to do image creation, somebody wants to do a question answer. There's so many object detection. There are so many use cases that are there, which for those the models are already in place. So one thing I want to leave you guys is that today let's leverage what is already there. So these platforms like Hugging Face or the Gits and all, Jenkins, you can just go and explore so many out of the box available models which you can just plug in, put your data, enter your use cases, and then start leveraging it. So I would request, just go log into these platforms, start exploring. You can write anything that help me create a CV, this is my profile, this is my last 4 years of education, this is what my current work experience. You can integrate with your LinkedIn, your profile, the JD that you are currently working on. You can give it your KRAs and ask them to create a CV for you, create a job role for you, and it can do it. So the only request that I have is, go and try it out, try it firsthand.
Amazing. Thanks for your answer there, Gaurav and Nagendra. So just, one last question about, a lot of people also, I'm sure, had this question. It might have gotten skipped in the amongst the, many chat messages that we got. So how are Simplilearn's courses exactly going to be helping people with all of that we just spoke about, whether it's upskilling, whether it's learning about the possibilities of GenAI in their specific job role, or whether it's about just trying to gain, I mean, satisfy their curiosity about how Gen AI can be leveraged. So how exactly the three programs that we mentioned can help people here?
So
Gaurav,
again, I will say that be it Simplilearn programs or any other platform, upskilling platform that is out there. There is lot of content for you to start. So depending on the profile that you come from, the kind of use cases, or the kind of outcome or kind of skills that you want to build, there are so many programs. So on Simplilearn platform also, if you go, there are so these three are just very specific programs on generative AI. But on AI, there are so many programs for different kind of user personas, for at different kind of experience levels out there. So just go and explore. For people who are students, who are looking for free resources, there are so many free resources also available. So if you go on Simplilearn, so you can just type skill up by Simplilearn, and there's thousands of free courses available on AI, data, Gen AI, which you can leverage to build your basic understanding about these technologies. So I would say that go explore these courses. There are so many, so I don't want to specifically called out specific user personas and courses. But as I was earlier mentioning that there are broadly 2 3 kind of personas. So anybody who is a non-technical person, so let's say somebody who is a product manager, somebody who is a data analyst, somebody who is a digital marketeer. So for them, there are programs which can help them leverage generative AI in their domains, so that they can improve their productivity, they can create a better impact in the work that they do. Then there are programs which are core AI programs for technical stakeholders, for technical users who have been, let's say, leveraging data, who have been leveraging AI, Python, Java. So for those folks, there are technical programs which where they can learn the core of generative AI. They can write their own LLMs, they can leverage the existing LLMs and customize them for their own use cases. So that's a second audience. And the third broad category is all those who are senior leaders, mid managers, senior managers, who are not today working hands on. So they want to understand how generative AI can be leveraged in their organizations, in their functions, teams. For them, there are very business focused or use case oriented programs which they can leverage to understand how generative AI can be used.
Thanks so much, Gaurav, for adding points about each of these courses. On the chat box, you will find link to the free courses that Gaurav was mentioning, and also links to these courses along with their detailed brochures. So like Gaurav said, these three courses cater to different personas of people. So whether you are just beginning your career, or whether you have no technical background, or someone who is already in the business space and is looking to leverage AI, any course, you can pick any course, and all of these courses are relevant to you. So please check out the links that I've shared on the chat for more detailed information. If you're looking to enroll in one of these courses, you can do that by submitting an application on the course page. Again, links are there to each of these courses on the chat box. So make sure you fill in your details, your contact details, and your correct email address. We will need a valid email address and a phone number so that we can contact you. We'll process and review your application once that's done. And this application is just to understand your background and your interest in our programs, whichever program you're applying to. Okay, so remember that you can apply to one program at a time. And if you want to apply to more than one programs, you can do that by submitting your information on multiple pages. So once we've reviewed the application and we've given you a decision, that comes to you on your email ID. Okay, so once that's done, after that is when you pay the fee, and then you're a part of the upcoming course cohort, right? So I hope this answers the questions about our courses. Let's say you are interested in our upcoming course. Yes, I please check. Please just scroll up your links, guys, on the chats. You will be able to see my course links and the brochures. If you haven't received it, just scroll up on the chat box, right? So the question to you right now is: are you interested in enrolling in our programs, all of these GenAI programs, right? And I want you to answer that through this particular poll. Okay, that's amazing. A lot of you are saying yes, yes, yes. Okay, that's amazing. So we will be launching the poll to give your names as well very soon. I mean, your names will be registered and your email ID will be registered very soon. Yeah. So one more poll that we are about to launch is which program you are interested in enrolling. Okay, just a moment. Please share your interest here. So I've given three options there: applied Gen AI, no code AI and machine learning specialization, generative AI for business transformation. Yeah.
And guys, it could be none of the above as well. So there are so many other programs out there, as I was mentioning earlier. So just go to simplylearn.com. Just go to different categories of programs. There are programs for in generative AI. There are programs in AI and machine learning, data analytics, data science. So there are so many domains where there are programs available, and most of these programs have generative AI covered as a topic, which focuses on how that particular domain where generative AI can be leveraged. So for example, if you go to a product management program or a digital marketing program, so in those programs also, one of the modules will be how generative AI can be leveraged for product manager, for different roles that you are currently in. So even though these 3 4 programs are more core generative AI program, there are a lot of other programs available on Simplilearn platform. So just go simplylearn.com, type and explore those programs.
Yes, so there's a specific category called generative AI, and you'll have a lot of other courses along with these three mentioned. Someone is asking me how you can enroll in these courses. Please pick one course that's most relevant and that you feel is suiting your needs, suiting your upskilling needs. Just try to fill in your details, and then we'll get back to you very soon.
Yeah, once you start your application, you will get a call from the career counselor, from the student advisor, from the company with whom you can discuss what are you looking at, what is your use case, what is your current profile, what is the outcome that you are looking at, and then basis that those student advisors can help you find the right program that you should be enrolling in.
That's right. That's exactly, just to understand your requirements better and just to understand which course is better. So our counselors will be with you right away. right? So right now, we are going to be taking some questions, and I request our speakers to just spend some more time answering these questions. There are a lot of them on YouTube and also on the Q&A box. So I think I'll just take this question here, which says, which is a better tool for Gen AI for analytics? So that's a question that someone had. Gaurav, if you could take that, please.
I don't know the answer, frankly. So as I was mentioning that, if you go to this platform called Hugging Face, there are over almost a million models available. So it depends on, what kind of use cases you have, what is exactly your requirement, what kind of data constraints that you have. Are you looking for a public model or a private model? There's so many things, that are required for you to identify the right model. Some models, work better for more conversational use cases. Some models work better to solve complex mathematical problems. So I think, you should start, and just as I mentioned, just go on these platforms, just go to the category of use case that you want to solve, and then you can see different models. You can compare those models. So what will be the output of those models for that particular use case, and then, start exploring some of them. So there are a lot of paid models. Again, are you looking for a paid model or a free model? What is your go live date? What kind of resources you have? So basis that, there are so many models in the market. But if you are just, looking to explore AI to help you answers, your questions, just go to, ChatGPT 4.0, just go to Llama 3.1. They are also more than enough.
Just to add to that, as a small business owner myself, I do some kind of data analytics, although it's fairly rudimentary. And just as a starting point, I am not answering your question about which is the best. As Gaurav said, I don't think that that's an easy thing to answer because it really depends on so many other parameters. But in case any of you are interested on just getting started, the one that I use that I tend to like a lot is Julius.ai, right? So as a small business owner, I tend to go to Julius.ai to do some quick and rudimentary analytics based on my data to get some decisions out of it and move on. So this is not an answer to the question which is the best out there. I'm just giving you my experience on what I started with and what I'm currently leveraging.
Thank you so much, Nagendra, for that answer. One more question that someone asked is, this is a very interesting question. So how can adversarial attacks and robustness be in control with Gen AI? This is a very technical question. So, Nagendra or Gaurav, if you could answer this.
I think the question needs a little more context. So we can loop back to that if the person who asked that question gives a little more context on what they're referring to, because we can certainly attempt answering it, but I think it's too broad a question right now. If you can give a little more context, we'll try to answer that. Does that make sense to Gaurav?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one more question that just came up. Someone is asking us the difference between AI and generative AI. So what is the difference there? That's the question from Sunita.
Sure. I can give my 2 cents on that. So artificial intelligence is basically something that has been evolving for nearly a couple of decades now. And it's the broad umbrella, very simply speaking, of trying to mimic human intelligence in machines, right? I'm sure all of you are already aware of that, but I'm just trying to get us all on the same page here. So it's a very broad field, whereas there has been tremendous research that has happened. Right. So there are aspects of artificial intelligence like machine learning, which has a very specific, relevant set of use cases. There is natural language processing that happens when we interact with a chatbot that is able to understand our language and respond to us. There is deep learning, there's neural networks. So there are very different types of implementations and use cases of the broad umbrella of artificial intelligence. Generative AI is one such, which leverages some of these other components also. Generative AI specifically is focused on helping us generate artifacts that is of use to us. Now, what are these artifacts? If you look at common use cases of generative AI, people will start talking about, hey, I asked it to create a document for me. I asked it to give me some suggestions, asked it to create an image, a video, a PowerPoint presentation. these are things that you can get started with, but the word generative is basically saying I can generate something for you. And this could include having a conversation with this generative AI saying, hey, this is the context, this is my policy or my organization. If I do this, will this violate the policy? So it can generate that response based on the data you've given it, right? So very simply put, generative AI is one aspect of the very broad umbrella of artificial intelligence that can look to generate responses and artifacts for you based on the data and the context that you give it. So that is my quick 2 cents on AI versus Gen AI. I don't know if Gaurav wants to add anything there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And somebody also asked, can we compare LLMs,
Yeah.
GPT, and Gen AI? So, see, generative AI is a technology term. So within that, there are different models that are, used in generative AI. LLM, it is a large language models. It's a common, term used for, models where, very large, variety of data is used to train those models. So, yeah. I think, and similarly, this GPT is nothing but so the full form is
Generative
Gee,
pre-trained
I
transformer.
have to Google it, frankly. So, generative
Pre-trained transformer.
pre-trained, yeah, pre-trained transformer. Yeah, right. So,
I had
guys,
to
and these are questions you should Google it yourself. So, I think these terms are used interchangeably.
Yeah.
But so this is basically generative AI is a technology under which there are different terms that are being used, different models that are being used, which are commonly used and mimicking generative AI. So somebody will say that I'm using GPT, somebody say that I'm using LLMs instead of generative AI models.
Right. Amazing. So two very industry specific questions from anonymous user. So they've asked us, what value can GenAI add in pharmaceutical industry, especially in regulatory affairs? And a very similar question for the accounting department. So how can GenAI be of help in finance? Two very interesting questions again.
I think the question you can ask yourself is, as I'm doing my job, where can I use some help? Right? Because keep in mind that neither Gaurav nor I are experts in either the pharmacy industry or the finance industry. So anything I try to respond will be a bit superfluous. Instead, I'll turn this question around you. And as you think through your job in the financial industry or financial accounting, sorry, or in pharmaceuticals, where do you think you can use help, right? Which part of your job you believe takes a lot of time, or you believe that I need somebody to give me some out of the box thoughts here, right? Where can you use a partner in the room? I would ask you to think of it that way. So I'll give you a very simple example, right? Let's say that a financial analyst, I'm using a very rudimentary example, so don't take it too literally, is using an Excel spreadsheet and is looking at some numbers there, and he or she is trying to come up with some kind of numbers from it, and is not sure if the numbers are adding up. It looks all right to me, but I feel that there might be something off. As an example, you can actually use a generative AI tool to upload this Microsoft Excel spreadsheet to and ask the question as it is being framed in your mind. Hey, generative AI tool, I'm trying to do this. I got this response. Can you look at this and tell me if this is the response you are getting as well? Is there something else that I'm missing? Imagine that, right? A partner in the room. So I would say, think about as part of your job, your everyday role, where do you think you can use a partner in the room? Where do you think you need some specific help in terms of getting faster turnaround time, in some terms of out of box thinking, in terms of validation, in terms of creating some new content? Where do you think you need help? And that's where I think it would help. So I know that's not exactly the answer you're looking for, but I hope I nudged you in the right direction at least. But Gaurav, please add if you have anything to add there.
Yeah, I'm completely aligned with what you just said. So maybe
Amazing.
think of your use cases that wherever you feel that you if there is a assistant that can help you give you better results, give you some point of view, share some thoughts. That's when you can leverage Gen.
Amazing. So a couple of questions again related to how can we enhance the output that generative AI gives? Or another question that is related to this is what exactly is prompt engineering and how to master it? So these were two questions that I found were relevant. So if you could answer your this question, please.
So, okay, I'll try. See how you can. So, prompt engineering is, in a very layman terms, it's a input that you give to the model. The questions, the way you interact with these models is called prompts. So the questions that you ask, they are called prompts, and prompt engineering is a art, or the way of how you interact with these models, so that you can get precise outputs, you can get correct output. And how do you master it? I think by practicing. So there are different kind of prompts. You can just understand those prompts, how to write a very concise, very precise prompt, and maybe by practicing you can get more better and better.
Nagendra, you have anything to add to this
Yeah,
question?
again, exactly what Gaurav said, right? This is the prompts are the way you interact. That's the only way you can interact with these generative AI tools. And the richer your prompt is, right? A question like, hey, generative AI tool, can you tell me how I can improve my sales? Versus, hey, generative AI tool, these were my sales in the last few months. I've had these kind of challenges when I tried to sell my products to the industry or to the market, and this was the feedback I received from some of my customers. Can you tell me how I can improve my sales? Can you tell the difference between the two? The first was a very lame or tame question, right? How can I improve my sales? Sure, you'll get some answer back. How valuable that is to you, you will have to judge. So the richer your prompt is, the more data you give it, the more context you set for it, and the more details you ask, and the more limitations you put. Also, please make sure you don't recommend any marketing campaigns, because I've already tried that. The more richer your prompt is, the better the outputs that you get, and the more you'll be able to use that. So prompt engineering is basically the technique. And because it has the word engineering, please don't think it's only for people who work in technology. Prompt engineering is for anybody in any role who wish to use generative AI. And it's a way to understand what is the best way to create rich prompts that gives me the most valuable outcomes.
Right. Got it. Got it. I hope this question was answered.
It can be very basic examples. So for example, suggest me a book to read, or you ask, so the model can suggest you any book. Or if you ask that, suggest me a book, so in the fiction side, written by let's say a female protagonist. So then the output that you will get is very specific. So the more specific question you ask, the more precise and specific output you will get.
Right.
So somebody would say that, write a catchy post for my Instagram, or you can say that, write a catchy post which will have these things, and this is the kind of people I am targeting. So that will give you a more better results.
Right, right. One more question that someone had is about what Nagendra mentioned about the biases. So, this person is asking us, are the biases built into the model by the coder themselves? Is there such a bias within that person that this person, this coder actually built it? They have this question about the bit about biases.
So broadly speaking, again, it's very hard to without actually examining the code to give a very an answer with 100% conviction. But broadly speaking, the biases we often run into are more on the data that we provided, less to do with how it has been coded, right? Because the code, the way it works is that give me data and I'll tell you things, right? So the data you give it matters the most. The kind of information you share with this, the kind of information that model has access to, is the primary source of bias. Now, if I want to, can I code something to have a bias? Sure, I can. But in this case, broadly speaking, I think that's less of a concern. The bigger concern is the information and data that the model is given or has access to.
Right. Okay. Okay. So how can we balance that gap between human intelligence and artificial intelligence such a way that human intelligence is not really in danger? I mean, that was also one question, and I thought
In
could be
fact,
a great
there is
follow-up.
a question, what is the difference between AI and AGI? So for
Yeah.
those who don't know, AGI is artificial general intelligence. So which is like, reasoning like a human.
Yeah.
And this is not yet there. So, but there are a lot of predictions that in the next 4 to 5 years, we will have AGI a reality where these models can mimic human cognitive ability, the ability to reason. And so that is also, there are a lot of companies which are working on this. So right now the models works on a different, on a specific input or how they have been trained. But there will be a time where a model is trained on a one particular topic or domain, and can extrapolate or leverage that learning to reason like a human in other fields. So that is called AGI, artificial general intelligence.
So just one more question. I think Gaurav, you could answer this. Would we then use GenAI for predictive analytics? A lot of questions were about how we can use GenAI in analytics, in data analytics, and make better decisions. So a lot of questions were that this specifically was about predictive analytics. So how is GenAI useful there?
So, see, there are a lot of predictive analytics models. With, if you give right data to the model, I think, and there are different models. Predictive analytics itself is data science. It is AI. It is giving the input and asking the model to predict something. So in a way, I think there are a lot of models available, as I mentioned earlier, which can be leveraged for predictive analytics, for descriptive analytics. Maybe we just need to understand the specific use case and find the right model to experiment with.
Got
So
it.
just to add on to that,
Nagin, happy to hear your thoughts.
certainly, just to add on to what Gaurav described, predictive modeling, predictive analytics has been around for a long time. It's not necessarily under the umbrella of AI. What AI can do is based on what you're looking for,
Recording stopped.
it can pick which predictive model is more
Recording in
appropriate,
progress.
which predictive model is more appropriate for you. Take your data, map it into the model, see if there are any errors that it can help you overcome, and return the output to you. So it's almost like these models, just to give you the example of predictive modeling, since you asked the question, predictive models are out there. They've been out there. They're not necessarily limited to the use of AI, but the two of them can make a very powerful combination. Because instead of you going doing all the research, figuring out how to apply your data to a predictive model, how to interpret the results, what decisions can you gain from it, you're welcome to do that if that interests you. But if you choose to go with Gen AI, then what Gen AI can do for you is, one, it's aware of all the predictive models out there, or at least many of them out there. It can look at what you're asking of it. It can look at your data set, pick the best model, apply it, overcome any errors and limitations, and get back to you with the output. So think of it as multiple things coming together to help you here. So it's not like Gen AI does predictive modeling. It's like Gen AI is able to go out and leverage anything that exists and use it for your benefit.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much for answering that. One last question before we end this session. I know I'm taking a lot of your time, but just this, because it's a question about how we can protect privacy while using public models like ChatGPT. And also a relevant question that someone had is, can using GenAI expose my company's confidential information, or for that matter, any person's let's say identity on the internet? So that's a question that a couple of learners had.
Certainly. So when you use public models like ChatGPT on like an online or through their website, then yes, your data can be used as part of the larger learning that the model undergoes, right? So they're always eager to use your data. Whether they will use it in a way that exposes some confidential information or exposes privacy related information, highly unlikely, because these are all very large organizations and they're looking to use your data only in a summarized and categorized way for numbers, more than where does this guy live, can I go bug him with ads, right? It's less about that. But having said that, yes, many of these tools, including ChatGPT, have an option to say don't use my data. Although the option is a little oblique. You basically have to go select. For instance, in ChatGPT, as far as I remember, you have to go select, don't remember my my questions. Don't remember my conversations. So your data will not be saved, but the disadvantage you'll have is that it will not remember your conversations, right? So there are some things like that, but I would say watch this space. It's evolving, because as organizations are looking to adopt, and as professionals are looking to adopt this is a common concern that is growing. And I'm sure the organizations, the technologists behind all this will address it in a way that it mitigates concerns, but also helps you leverage these models. But yes, as of today, that is certainly something you have to pay attention to.
Amazing. Thank you. Gaurav, do you have anything to add to this?
No, I agree. So, like, there are the mod. See, let's understand it from a point of view that, how are these models be able to, answer so many questions, because they are trained on some data. And then they are trained on our own data. So maybe we have explicitly said yes, or it is implicit that, these organizations have, leveraged the data that we have been, sharing with them intentionally or unintentionally. So all the searches that we do on Google, everything that we do on Facebook, so all of that data is being utilized by these models to train. And when today also, if you use these public models, by default, the information is being shared back to them, which they can leverage to improve their models. But there are always options in different models where you can decide to go private. You can choose a setting where your data will not be shared back with the parent organization.
Yes, understood. Understood. Great. Thank you so much, Nagendra and Gaurav, for your amazing insights. I definitely had a lot to learn today. Audience on YouTube, if you agree with me here, just everyone on Zoom as well, just give me a yes if you learned about GenAI, and I hope all your questions and apprehensions were addressed. If you enjoyed the session, please rate us. It'll help us, improve in our upcoming webinars. I've launched a poll again just to, ask about how satisfied you are with this particular session. Just give us a rating on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. And with this, I would like to thank our experts as well, Nagendra and Gaurav. Again, thank you so much for being with us. We'll join you guys very soon in an upcoming webinar. Just make sure you leave us this rating. And there's also one last thing available, the much awaited certificate, right? So once this poll is done, I will be launching another poll asking for your full name. So please make sure you enter your name without spelling errors. You will receive your certificates tomorrow along with this particular recording link, right? So thank you so much for your responses. A lot of you have rated us 5. That feels great. I'm just going to stop this poll right away, and I'm just going to launch a poll that asks you your certificate here. Yeah. Yes, not on the chat, not on the chat. On the poll here. Just a moment. I'm going to launch that.
While you're doing that, Aparna, thank you very much for being a very gracious host and an excellent moderator. Gaurav, it was wonderful, as always, being in the same conversation with you. And all the very best to all of our participants for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. And thanks, Nagendra. Thanks, Aparna.
Thank you.
For being such a wonderful co-host. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye. So we're just having our learners enter their names for their certificates. Thank you. Yeah, please do that. We have about 65, 68 names out of the 112 of you. Yeah. Amazing. Just make sure you enter your actual name. You can only respond once. So please make sure it's accurate. Yeah, just 30 more seconds. Thank you so much, Sadaf. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. And also thank you to people joining us from YouTube and also on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. Great. Yes. Amazing. I think we've received our answers as well. You can wait for your certificates tomorrow. Thanks again for joining in. I enjoyed hosting this session. Yes, you can check it out on our YouTube channel. Simplilearn is the name of the YouTube channel. You will receive the recording. There's nothing to worry if you missed something, if you missed an answer. There's nothing to worry. All of you here on Zoom will receive the recording tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.